Hello, it's Nikki. How you doing? Today I want to give you some exercises and some things to think about. And it's a conversation that is on the internet in our lives all of the time. And I think it's a really good one, especially at this time of year when many of us are thinking about what we want this year to look like. And it's this feeling of being ready. And I want to unpack it and see what comes up. So one of the things that I have noticed is that my generation, so I was born in 81, so I would say like 30s, 40s, the way that many of us were brought up was very much seen, and maybe not quite as extreme as this, but much more so than I would say this generation. Seen and not heard, like you're a child, so therefore you know less than the adult, or there's a sense that you might not be recognized for something unless you had the certification, or a teacher happened to meet your parent in the street and was like, oh, she's quite good at this, you know. And that sort of external pat on the back, handshake, you are now ready. And what I found, two things. What I found is our children, my children, are not like that. They are much more interested and aware and intrigued and have much more permission to be part of the conversation, to ask questions. The dialogue between parents and children is much more open. I think children are living in a different world and exposed to different things now. And it's really interesting when I speak with my child, more so with my 7-year-old than my 3-year-old, although I'm sure she'll just tell me that she's ready, which I will fully hear, absolutely. But I was speaking to my son today about the pros and cons, because I want to give him some tools that are like life tools where he can approach situations and he knows what to do. Anyway, we were talking about various scenarios about pros and cons and looking at something on paper and weighing it up. But then I was explaining to him that sometimes we just have inexplicable feelings, or knowing that it's time, or knowing, like, walk away, say no, it doesn't feel good. And so I was talking to him about gut instinct. And this is a really interesting one in terms of being ready. Because on paper, when you're making a decision, you may not think that you're ready. And there may be things that you would be looking for to suggest to yourself that you are ready for this situation. So you may be looking to invest in something, so you need to see the money right there in the bank account before you can even do anything about it. And of course, I am not advocating going into debt for any of these sorts of things, so continue watching the video and I'll tell you a bit more about that in a second. Or we wait until somebody picks us, or somebody says, you are now ready, or now is your time. And one thing that I've realized is that nobody is going to do that for you unless you decide. In very few instances, nobody is going to intervene in your life and step up and say, now is your time to do that thing. And also, even if somebody did say that, you may not even listen to them anyway. And I think going back to how many of us were brought up was that a lot of the female characters that we saw, you know, they were Disney princesses who were just kind of sticking their head out of the window, looking out for a prince and hoping for the best. And I've now realized, and I said this in an earlier video, but I'm probably over halfway through my life. I mean, in a way, I'm like, I would love to be that person that lives till 120. But I'm 41. I've had 3 grandparents that have died in their early 80s. You know, maybe that will be my route as well. And so this sense of waiting for somebody to come along and go, now you're ready, now you should do the thing, it's unlikely to happen. And secondly, why am I waiting? Why am I waiting? Now, here's the little caveat. And this is going back to the pros and cons and the feeling good. Sometimes you have the feeling, but the pros and cons and the what it looks like on paper are not practical. So sometimes I will have pregnant women who are 38 weeks pregnant, and they'll get in touch and they're like, Nikki, I need to start a business. And I've just got this feeling like I don't want to go back to my job already. Like I just feel that. And yet what's on paper is that they're going to have a baby very, very soon. A baby that will take a lot of their attention and require a lot from them. So in that instance, I will always say, like, I hear you, but why don't you have your baby? And then let's discuss once that has been the case. Because for me, it's always really important to work in integrity, and I don't want to take somebody's money who might have other things going on to be factored into. So yeah, that is one thing. But then there is sometimes that moment where you might be like, well, I'm quite busy already, and I maybe don't have the money to do all of the things that I want to do. And yeah, I don't know if now is the right time. But yet I feel this pull. I feel like I need to make some changes. And in that case, I would be really listening to what that instinct is telling me. And also alongside that is to set yourself up for success, which is to get clear on the nitty-gritty of what is required in order for you to meet that instinct of like, I think I'm ready. So that might be more of a time span. And I think sometimes it's that sense of, I feel like I want to do this and I want to make all these changes. Like, let's go, let's do all of the things. And that's quite a sexy story when it really works, when you're saying like, oh, I just changed my mind and I did this, and then within 2 weeks I built that. And, you know, that's a really clickable blog post. We want to hear about that. But I believe that those stories are very rare, and most people need more time, more capacity to do the things that they want to do. So to go back to that original feeling of, am I ready? Really listen to what that pull is. And one of the tests that I do is, if I do nothing right now, will I be happy if I'm in the same position this time next year? And sometimes when we enter a new year, the thought of thinking about next year is way too much. But if you want to reverse that, of maybe you look at January 2022 when you're like, I was talking about this thing last year. I was actually, I still haven't done anything. That would suggest to me that it needs some focus. It needs some attention, and it's bobbing up to say hello and asking for you to notice it. So when it comes to making decisions of, am I ready? The first thing I would say is, only you know. And remember, nobody is coming to intervene, and nobody is going to care more about your goals and your big plans more than you do. So take responsibility, I guess, is what the thing is take responsibility. And sometimes that is taking an hour for yourself to actually explore the idea. And sometimes you get to the hour and you're like, I don't want to do this. I don't know why I thought that this would be a good idea. Maybe I watched something on YouTube and somebody else had done it, and you kind of take on somebody else's dream. But I think even giving yourself that time and space to explore something, it's really worth your time to look at it. Because I have a theory that if something keeps popping up again and again, it's looking for you to pay attention, to give it some time, to have a conversation about it at least. Finally, don't disregard your feelings. If you are feeling lots of things, almost take them out of the box and put them on the table and give them a look and really explore, because for the most part, the why and that drive and that connection and that passion, it won't let you down. The how will figure itself out. There will be a way to do the things that you want to do, but you might just need a bit of time and space and resources to work that through. So I hope this video has left you with some hope, with some optimism, and a reminder that your life and what is important to you is worth and worthy of looking at. And we have to take it seriously. If we were waiting for other people to come along and to say, yes, you now, most things wouldn't happen. I created my podcast 5 years ago because I wanted to make a podcast. And if I'd waited for somebody to come along and say, hey, you should make a podcast, I'm here to say that 5 years later, that has still never happened. Nobody has kind of popped up into my DMs and said, why don't you do this? I had to create it first. So let me know what comes up today. Let me know what resonates. I would always love to hear. And for now, I'm sending lots of love, and I'll see you next time.